We know there's ways to have extremely cheap energy, cheap housing, cheap food. And, you know, I'm not like talking some socialist crap. I'm talking from a like market-based supply side system.
Sure.
We could have cheap food, energy, and housing.
It really feels like a mind virus, these kids that go off to college and are so easily convinced. And I do think it's a lack of identity and purpose.
Russia and China and the Middle East aren't our biggest threats. It's our own f***ing government. It's our own media that's the biggest threat to America.
What God do you believe in?
I just believe in God, period. Like, I don't call it
Which God?
I don't think there's multiple gods. I don't give God a name except for God.
It sounds like you're your own God.
No.
Where do you get off? Like, what makes you think that you can be the president?
What's up, guys? Brandon Aceto here. I'm here with my buddy Daniel DeBrinket, one of our new co-workers, taking the editing bay by storm. And we're here with episode 3 of The Drink Tank. So, Danny, I want to talk to you about what this SOB, I'm being nice, Larry Fink said today. He said he's trying to sell the world on the fact that depopulation is actually a positive thing because AI is going to make it so that we don't need as much labor, so a shrinking population is actually good, which is a real convenient narrative for somebody who's a diehard globalist to say and wants to reduce the world's population by 80%. So
80%?
Yeah.
I think at the root of it all, it's anti-human.
Yeah, big time.
Yeah. I think, personally, I think it's Satanist that hate people. By in turn attacking people in the family, I think that the family models the earthly reflection of who God is. The Father, Son, Holy Spirit. And I think that the world wants everything to get rid of that. And so they're attacking us on every front with trying to convince us that kids are not important, that we can abort them, that marriage is not holy and we shouldn't do that because it's an inconvenience. And I think just everything is an attack. And so of course, that the globalists want to destroy that.
Yeah, no, it's a multi-front attack, sort of a death by a thousand cuts, where, you know, they're advocating for the LGBT rights, and it starts off with, oh yeah, let's just make gay marriage legal because, you know, it's not that crazy of a thing, like whatever, let them do their thing. But then, boom, 10 years later, after it goes from it being illegal in every state to being legal in every state, then we got teachers teaching preschoolers about tranny sex and cutting off their genitals. So, you know, and then people wonder, why is it that people are advocating for gender changes, like when kids are teenagers? But if you think of it through the lens of a globalist, it makes perfect sense, because, like, what better way to slow population's growth than to convince 25% of the kids that they're transsexual to potentially change their gender, or, you know, partner up with somebody who's the opposite sex. So that's what they've accomplished now, and
they accomplished 25%.
Yeah, so it went from millennials, 7% of them identified as part of the LGBT community, and now Gen Z, over 20% of them identify as part of the LGBT community. So it shows how powerful of an impact Hollywood and the media has. And, you know, it's not just through the LGBT stuff, it's through the social and financial dynamics too, because look at what they did with it used to take one person to support a household, now it takes two people to support a household. People have to, like, factor in how much childcare costs, which is, you know, something that you could, from a policy standpoint, very easily fix the childcare problem, very easily fix the cost of living problem if they didn't have so many regulations around how much it takes to build a house with the zoning laws and stuff, and all these tariffs that make commodity prices higher than they need to be, you know. So they've systematically made the cost of living extremely expensive. We know there's ways to have extremely cheap energy, cheap housing, cheap food. And, you know, I'm not like talking some socialist crap. I'm talking from a like market-based supply side system.
Sure.
We could have cheap food, energy, and housing, and that's what you need to have, you know, a decent standard of living. Then everything else after that's extra. But they have taken that away from us because they want to slow the population growth to a screeching halt.
Brandon, I find you very interesting. You are the only person that I currently know. I knew one other guy in high school that was wanting to be the president, and he was a socialist communist. Like, he identified as that. I think he's gay. I don't know.
Of course.
Yeah, right? And
socialism and gay synonymous to a degree.
Yes. Yeah, no, there was actually like a scandal at our school.
Really?
I'm not going to say any names, but apparently his father was the teacher of the orchestra.
What?
And he was like the best band director in the state.
Yeah.
And they even named the street in front of our school after him. He got caught sleeping with his son's girlfriend. And the son reported him and got him fired. And this kid wants to be the president of the United States.
Wow.
And he's like actually trying. And so I think that that's wild. And you're the only other guy that I've met. Interesting character. Not quite as on that scale of things. But the more I learn about you, I mean, where do you get off? Like, what makes you think that you can be the president?
It went from, I always wanted to take a shot at it for my entire life, but, you know, after the 2020 stuff that went on, it went from being like I wanted to do something like, oh, I need to do this to preserve the thing that we love, which is this gift called America, you know, this beautiful experiment where we're able to, you know, give it our best shot, and if we do well at it, you know, we can make anything we want out of our lives. And the reason I think I could do it well is because I understand economics in a deep way. I obsessively, you know, studied it to understand every last thing about the markets, how macroeconomics works. I went to school for geopolitics, national security, and I think like some of the most important things that you need to be a good president is to understand the economy, understand global affairs, you know, international relations, and then just be good at knowing how to pick the right people and put them in, like, identify experts who know things better than you and put them in the right place. So I think that there's a good amount of things that I'm, you know, world class at with how much I know about it, but then I also know what my weaknesses are. So I think I'd be well equipped to identify what type of people I need to put around me.
If you wouldn't mind, what are your weaknesses?
I would say being organized and, you know, like having structured, like repeatable systems in place. Because, you know, you hear the way I talk, like that's just like a microcosm of what's going on in my head. So there's like a flurry of stuff going on in my head at any given moment. I have a pretty good memory, so I probably lean on that too much instead of like, yeah, like I've always wanted to have an organized planner where, you know, like I write everything down in a precise, meticulous way, but that's like that just never ends up being a thing for me because I like move too quickly and like just like kind of remember all the stuff that I need to do. But I know that's not a scalable, sustainable way to do it. So I think I need just organized, system-based people around me.
Right, to delegate.
That just like have things like in order, because you know, like I know policy decisions and the way that things should be, but all the little details, that's the kind of stuff that kind of bogs me down.
Something that I've been seeing in the news for the past 4 years, my entire adult life at this point, it's been close to 8 years now, is the swamp. Everybody keeps talking about the swamp. How would you overcome the swamp? Because I hear you say all these good ideas. You're sounding like a politician that goes to these town councils and does these rallies where they have all these great ideas on how they could fix stuff.
Yep.
Then they get in DC and they run into this establishment that seems to be so set in stone that they are unable to do what they say that they want to do.
Yeah, so this is probably the single most important thing that I preach to people, and if you're taking anything away from this, take this message away from it. So within the next 10 years, like whether it's me or somebody else in 10 years who becomes president, we need 535 true American-loving patriots to get themselves in Congress and the Senate, because, you know, I know who I would want my cabinet to be. I know who I'd want to appoint to various positions like military general and, you know, like Department of Housing, Department of Urban Affairs, yada yada. But it's not worth a damn if I don't have Congress on my side at some degree, because right now Congress is probably 90% swamp creatures. And the problem with when you become president, the Senate has to approve the people you pick for your cabinet and appoint to positions. So, you know, that's gonna be like, that would be the most frustrating thing, is if I get to that spot, but then, you know, I'm still having to fight the swamp creatures for like, appointing people to positions, because then you can't root out the deep state. The deep state's the one who's making the laws. The Congress is probably the most powerful institution in the world when they're united behind something. You know, it's the power of the purse, the power to deploy the military. So we need true patriot, American-loving people to be in Congress. And it's not a lot of freaking people. Like, it's a difficult undertaking, sure, but, you know, you're telling me out of 40 million people, there's not 535 people that could, you know, say, all right, I'm in a good position in life where I'm squared away financially. I know enough about this district to, you know, take a shot at it. I'm going to run for Congress in my district this year. I'm going to run for the Senate for my state because I have a good name in my state. You know, we need 535 people to do that, and then half them to win.
I notice a lot of these patriots that are in that position, they want to be left alone. They want to be on a ranch somewhere. They don't want to deal with the drama. They don't want to get into it. I mean, how do you find those people if they're not attracted to that life that the politician and all the fake news and all this stuff would bring on them and their families?
Yeah, no, that is unfortunate that people who are the most qualified for these positions often are the ones who want to be left alone, don't want to be part of it. But You know, I think more and more of those people every day with what's going on in the world are being compelled. You know, it's like the hero story where you don't necessarily want to go out and take on a big, scary, daunting cause that you know is going to have a lot of impact on your personal life and the people you care about. But I have faith that in America there's 535 people out there that are brave enough to do that and will eventually be compelled to do that.
Yeah, it's not that much.
No.
Yeah.
No, it's a fraction of the population. What? They run everything that we do. Every decision, every tax policy, every spending bill goes through them.
Which is why I don't even know any of their names. I don't know them.
Yeah.
I mean, we do elect them, right?
Yeah, yeah. So we elect them in the national election, and so in the primaries they get elected from their district, but then in the national election they're part of the ticket. What
do you think? I've been hearing in this being talked about, putting the voting on the blockchain, or all the budgeting for the entire country on the blockchain, so that everybody can have a say and kind of like it's transparent. We can all see what's going on. We can know these people's names, and it's not all this behind closed doors. What do you think about that?
I'm all for the blockchain voting because right now our voting is a disaster on purpose. The fact that we do stupid, like, think about this. Now Instagram, Tinder, places like that are requiring you to provide a form of ID to make an account.
It's so crazy.
So that they can make sure that you have an accurate Tinder profile. But they're, you know, you could walk into a voting booth without any form of ID in a lot of states and vote. So, you know, that's like intentional, disorganized chaos to, you know, push an agenda. Well, again, that's Congress that makes those decisions, which is why it's so important to get like real, actual non-swamp creature people into these spots.
I was shocked to see when I got my Florida State voting ID, they were promoting mail-in votes on the slip.
In Florida?
I was shocked. I thought that after the 2020 disaster that we saw, that would be done and over with, especially here.
Yeah, no, they always find a way to drag out a crisis, and you know, even though DeSantis is doing a good job, there's still a Democrat, liberal, chaotic presence here that's trying to push for that, and you know, they'll use all the like emergency stuff to try and push for it. But it's worse in some states than others. Like in Pennsylvania, they actually like changed the law without going through the proper channels in 2020. So yeah, those ones are the biggest problems. That's gonna be something to closely monitor too. Is like which states are still have the same policies in place as they did in 2020 to allow some of the stuff where they were like allowed to count for several days after the election.
Who inspires you the most in politics?
People that aren't necessarily a lot. I mean, you know, Trump, I really respect the hell out of what he did, because anybody who's calling out people that you're like not supposed to call out or that's scary to call out, I respect the hell out of that. And he says dumb stuff, but he's also a lot smarter than people think. You know, there's been 100%. Several things that, like, you know, I follow a lot of stuff, a crazy amount of stuff, and, you know, feel that I know more things about what's going on in the world than the majority of people. But there's been several times where he said something that wasn't even on my radar. Like earlier this year, he's been talking about how China's building their cars in Mexico to get around the tariffs. You know, nobody was talking about that before he brought it up. That's something that was really going under the radar. And then in 2018, that was the first time that a politician really called out NATO for letting Russia build a pipeline that was providing Europe more than 50% of its oil. Right. Saying like, hey, Russia's going to have Germany by the balls if we let this happen. And, you know, of course we let it happen. And Germany had their energy prices go up like 70% when Russia invaded Ukraine.
Unbelievable. And I think they were trying to ban him on Twitter and X and all this, because I think this was the first time where a president, you can tell it's actually him that would tweet these things out, these updates like that we want to hear. And they try to demonize that so much, because that's a serious threat, to have a voice right to the people, not through a press conference, not through a channel on the news. Right. And I see stuff that he posts on Truth all the time. I'm like, what other president has ever done this? Ever?
Yeah, no. Yeah, no, it's cool. It's like every once in a while when technology's changing, presidents will take advantage of it. So like JFK took advantage of TV, Obama took advantage of Facebook, and Trump took advantage of Twitter. But just to expand real quick on the people that I look up to and motivate me, because I don't want it to be like I'm like all motivated by Trump, you know. Definitely Elon Musk, because, you know, again, he doesn't have to do what he's doing. You know, he made his life entirely more difficult by buying Twitter and, you know, letting people speak on there freely, because I think he had like the complete wind of the government at his back before he did that, you know, in the sense of like buying all of his contracts or giving the government contracts to him for a solar company, for the Teslas, for the charging stations, for the satellites. So now, he's got like over 10 investigations on him from government organizations because he's, daring to go against what they want him to do. And then
Unbelievable.
People like
actually very believable. I take it back.
Yeah, no, it'd be shocking if they didn't do it.
Yeah, exactly.
PBD I look up to big time. He really inspires me. That's why I really wanted to get here, because I know Valuetainment's fighting the good fight, and we're trying to make a difference in America and preserve this precious thing that we all love. As far as people who are not any longer with us, I'd say people like Winston Churchill, because it's difficult to do what he was doing at the time. Like anybody who takes the unpopular, difficult opinion to take because that's something that very few people could do, is say something that they know 90% of people aren't agreeing with, that they're going to get criticized for. Because at the time it was a scary notion to say, like, no, we're going to defy Hitler and we're going to take a stand against him, because
Sure.
they were mowing people down, and Neville Chamberlain wanted to say, like, all right, well, yeah, we'll just appease them, let them take a few territories, and then they'll leave us alone. He's like, no, bullshit, they're not going to stop. They're not going to stop until they're at our doorstep.
And they didn't.
And eventually he was right, and Neville Chamberlain went down in history as a coward, and Churchill was the hero. But there was a time where, everybody was mad at him for saying what he was saying. And same thing for Lincoln, like Lincoln, it was really difficult for him to do what he was doing. He was criticized by everybody. Same thing with George Washington, same thing with Kennedy, and same thing with Reagan to a degree. So anybody who's taken the difficult position and ended up, it's never easy at the time. You're never the hero at the time when you're taking the difficult, unpopular position. But, that's who history looks fondly upon.
I really wish PBD would run. Run for something. I think he'd be so good, because I'm in the same boat as you. I've worked for myself since 2020. Inspired by PBD to follow this entrepreneurial path, and I found success in that, and I didn't ever want to work for someone else again.
Yeah.
When I found out that Valuetainment was hiring, I jumped on it instantly and made it my goal.
Oh yeah.
To be here, because I think that you guys truly are holding it down. You speak the truth, and it's so awesome to be a part of this team now, and being able to edit him now. It's so amazing behind the scenes how good he is. I mean, he really is spot on, and I respect him a lot. And so I don't think he would want to run for anything, but I think he might,
unless they change that rule where
right.
if you're born outside the country you could run. If they change that.
Is that for everything? Is could he do something in Florida, or?
I think governors are allowed to if they're from outside.
Ron DeSantis is doing a great job, though.
Yeah, but you have to ask yourself, is he more impactful in that position, or in like a media growing position where he's spreading truth and influence across the country and potentially the world, and like hosting presidential debates and being a beacon for free speech. So I think you can make an argument that's more important now, because there's other people who could step up and be governor. I think like Matt Gaetz is a good potential governor next, or even Mayor Suarez in Miami. So I think what he's doing right now is desperately needed, and exactly where he needs to be. But I totally feel you on that. I was working for myself too before I came here. In 2021, I was just furious at the state of the world, and I quit my job, started a YouTube channel. Everybody thought I was crazy. And like, what are you doing? Like, it takes forever to grow that. And I'm like, whatever, I don't care. I have a lot to say. So, first month, 1,000 subscribers. 6 months later, 40,000 subscribers. I'm crushing it. Then boom, get hit with a strike and get demonetized for 3 months, and that set me in the course to be like, all right, I need to team up with somebody if it's this easy for these fuckers to stop me from making money on YouTube. So started just persistently hitting up Valuetainment and trying to get their attention, and took about 6 months, but I finally took drastic enough measures to get their attention, and I knew once they saw what I was all about, then we'd be a really good relationship, and it's been amazing ever since. So yeah, I'm saying right there with you. We're fighting the good fight.
Cheers.
I think the essence of depression is really not feeling like you're fulfilling a purpose, because everybody, that's like the root of happiness, is to feel like
100%.
you're doing something that's purposeful and that you care about and that you would die for. But a lot of people, there's such a lack of that, and that's why all these crazy people at the college, it's so easy to manipulate them into thinking that they're fighting for something that's important, or like they have a purpose because they're out there in tents, like screaming for Palestine, but they don't know the first thing about Palestine. So it's
absolutely
unfortunate.
In high school, I dated this girl for 2 years, a normal girl. She goes off to liberal art school. First 2 weeks, she becomes a them they. She's protesting for Brett Kavanaugh, and she says she feels the best she's ever felt in her life and all this. And I was flabbergasted. I was like, what is going on? How did that happen so quick? You were a Christian, normal girl in Georgia. Now you're in Chicago. What happened in that 2 weeks? I didn't even know anything about politics. I didn't know what conservative was. I didn't know what liberal is. This was at 18.
Yeah.
I had no idea. I was completely unplugged. I decided to, after hearing all this stuff and thinking that it was nuts, I decided to look into it. I'm like, what am I? It took me less than a week. And I was like, okay, I'm totally on the conservative, God-fearing, pro-people side of things.
Right.
And it really feels like a mind virus, these kids that go off to college and are so easily convinced. And I do think it's a lack of identity and purpose.
Well, yeah, and it's like, think about the average person who's a professor at these colleges. You know, they've spent their entire life in academia. Okay, and the problem with that is there's no consequence for their performance. So, you know, when you don't have a consequence for your performance, you know, you have this more socialist, liberal type of mindset because, you know, when the market's allowed to judge you on something and you have like a fail or pass type of thing as a professor, then you might get a like more sensible set of ideas, but that's not the case for them. You know, they have a steady, guaranteed job once they achieve tenure, so they can preach anything they want to preach. And you know, problem number one is the fact that look at what percentage of tuition goes towards the total pot for a college. You know, we discovered this past week that it's less than 20% of the these colleges' revenue comes from the actual students. But like,
so wait. When a student is going to college, they pay their parents or debt.
Take Harvard for example. Yeah,
$200,000, $300. That's only 20% of what the college is making.
College or at Harvard, it's exactly 17% of their revenue comes from tuition, and 40% of it comes from donors.
Donors like the parents, like the
donors,
alumni?
like yeah, sure. Some alumni, a lot of George Soros, a lot of Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, and guess what? There's big giant strings attached to that. Saying they have what's called restricted funds, so they get to say, hey, you better teach these gender studies stuff. Better tell them why they might be a guy or might be a girl, and why they should question this, and why they should like Palestine. You know, don't turn them into rational capitalist thinking people. Turn them into socialists who hate America and think that America's racist and, you know, sexist and xenophobic. That's what we want them to think.
Have you ever heard of a gentleman named Yuri Bezmenov?
Yeah. What's he from? Yeah, he's from Russia and predicted all the way they're going to attack us.
Not predicted, just told us the game plan.
Yeah.
This was a KGB agent in the 80s that was a spy here, defected, decided to tour around to all the schools and tell them the play-by-play of what the communist countries are going to do, starting with the demoralization of society. He goes into so much detail. There's a beautiful hour-long class of his online that if you look up Yuri Bezmenov, easy to find, you'll be blown away that this wasn't shot last year. It's crazy.
Well, check this out. So, I mean, this is the entire reason that I went to school for national security, and by the year 3 or so, I saw The Matrix. At first, I was like, oh yeah, that's how we're gonna fight terrorism and stop the Middle East from taking over America, stop China from, you know, doing their thing, stop Russia, blah blah blah. But like halfway through, I'm like, wait a second, Russia and China and the Middle East aren't our biggest threats. It's our own fucking government. It's our own media that's the biggest threat to America. So I'm not even worried about what Russia might be trying to do to us because we're so much more powerful than them from a capital market standpoint, from a military standpoint, from a potential standpoint. But what I am worried about is what the globalists are trying to do, because it's the globalists that are trying to make Americans hate America, that are pushing for the immigration, that are, you know, eroding the culture of all these countries from around the world, because it's like socialism on a higher level, because, you know, socialism, they want a centralized power, so a tight group of people has, you know, central command over the government, over the financial system. But the globalists, they want to do that for the entire world. They want to get rid of borders, have a one world currency, a one world set of laws where just you know, round table all of them, get to be the decision makers for the entire world. So it's like a even crazier, it's like a world level socialism type of thing.
I've been hearing this for years.
And that's what Larry Fink spoke about today.
Right. I mean,
yeah.
how much of it truly is internal, and how much of it is our enemies that have intercepted through either spies or some form of mind control where they're able to implant these thoughts into us and ideologically subvert us.
Well, mind control is extremely effective, but blackmail is extremely effective, and bribery is extremely effective. So, the mind control hits the youth, the bribery hits our politicians, and then what was the other one? The blackmail hits the people who are unwilling. So, you only get the small portion of people left who are able to speak the truth and speak what they actually think. So, Trump, to a degree, self-made billionaire who has a good reputation, didn't do anything like egregious in the past where he could just go out and say whatever he wants, but that's extremely rare. The only people who have been able to say whatever they want in politics are people like Trump, Reagan, JFK, all people who made their money before politics, didn't have to sell out to people.
You say that he didn't do anything egregious, but he's being hit with all this Stormy Daniels stuff 8 years now.
Exactly.
It's crazy.
But imagine, take the entire world, person by person. What would be found if the entire weight of the U.S. federal government was being thrown at them and picking through their entire life to just find something, anything that could put them away, that could stop them from running for president?
What do you think they would find on you?
On me, nothing, because I haven't done anything that I'm ashamed of, and I haven't done anything that would stop me from being president. There's nothing that I've done that I've been like, oh my god, I can't find that out. What are they gonna say? Oh wow, you were at a party in college. Okay, bro. Whatever.
They do say that.
Yeah,
stuff.
cool, whatever. Yeah. That stuff just goes away.
I guess.
So much information hits everybody every day that look at the guy who had all of his closet clothing laced with gold bars that he got from Israel because he passed certain legislation, or the guy who traded TikTok or traded Meta stocks because he wrote the TikTok legislation. So all this crazy stuff with Congress happens all the time, and it just kind of floats away.
There's a lady I know that dabbles in that too. What's her name? I think Nancy?
Yes.
Nancy dabbles
she
in
crushes
that quite
it.
a bit. Yeah, she crushes it. She's killing it.
I know. I'm kind of jealous of them. They get to insider trade openly, and it's...
Yeah, no, it's kind of sick. The Biden crime family, too, is really good at that. They know how... I thought I learned something from Breaking Bad on how to, launder cash. These guys took it to another level.
Well, the nice thing about being part of the deep state, though, is you don't even have to cover your tracks. You can be as sloppy as you want. This fucking guy, he ditched a gun with a scratched-off serial number in a dumpster.
Next to school.
Yeah, and the Secret Service that was getting paid with our tax dollars had to go retrieve it. So, that's the difference of being part of the deep state versus the Trump family. You fucking talk to a Russian at some point in your life, and they do a deep dive investigation on you for 3 years. So that's the scary thing about being on the what I was talking about before, being on the difficult side to be on, where the wind's blowing against you instead of at your back. But those are the heroes when you look at it 50 years from now.
I really think Trump's going to be talked about for hundreds of years.
Yeah.
I don't know actually how history will treat him. I like to think it's going to treat him very well, because I believe that the truth sets you free. I think the truth always comes up in the end. But historically, I don't know. It's written by the people who win. So if the liberals and the Democrats that hate him, if they win, Trump's going to go down in history as a Hitler type. If the truth wins and people can actually read his actual tweets and actually see the legislation that he did and what he did for America that was good, which anybody on either side of the spectrum can definitely agree that under Trump, we were all living a better life. Mm-hmm. Let's be real, economically.
At least there wasn't a war going on in 50-plus countries around the world.
World War III. They were all scared that he was going to start it, and look at us now.
Yeah. And, just to track back a little bit, for anybody who's concerned about China being part of this push for globalism, China's actually a victim of the globalism. So China was actually one of the first experiments of what they want to do to America. So people like David Rockefeller and this guy, what the hell is her name? He has the same last name as this lady who's on the Morning Joe show. It starts with a B, but regardless of what the exact name is, they were part of this thing called the Trilateral Commission, who has this vision of a technocratic system, which is basically globalism, where technology kind of oversees the entire world, and there's a one world government. It's their utopian situation where AI kind of takes over all the manual labor, and the biggest concern for people is just how to entertain themselves, and they can just be in their little pods like watching, playing video games.
Have we not seen how miserable that makes everybody? I mean, truly.
Yeah, super. But they have a cure for that. Don't worry. So
In the form of a pill.
yeah, exactly. A
Then we're
happy
good.
pill. Yeah,
We're good.
Yeah, that's Yuri Harari or whatever. That's his grand vision for people.
That's pretty devastating. Do you think an AI president would do a good job?
No, I think the role I could see AI potentially playing is setting interest rates for the Federal Reserve instead of a person doing it, because no, I mean the rates are supposed to be determined by the free market, but if they let the market determine rates right now, the market would sell off all the bonds and rates would go to like 17%, and the national debt payments would be like 3 trillion instead of 1 trillion a year like it is right now. So I don't know, how's an AI president make decisions that wouldn't potentially destroy the world, or like declare war on somebody who it sees as a threat. Like what if it gets tricked or something? So
ChatGPT is, I think, gotten worse because it's feeding off a human input, and
well, that's
humans
the thing.
are
Yeah,
stupid,
it's
so
not
making
independent thinking. Somebody's the creator of it, and like once somebody's not the creator of it, once it has singularity where it's thinking for itself, like who the hell knows what's gonna think? People say that it's like the intelligence gap between us and AI is going to be like a human compared to a house cat. So we have no idea what it's going to do once it starts thinking for itself. And when it's not thinking for itself, it's thinking on behalf of somebody else. So hell no.
I know everybody talks about that, but I'm not worried. I'm not. I mean, artificial intelligence, it's all just... I know... I've seen the Terminator.
Yeah, Skynet.
Which they actually named it that in China, which is crazy.
Yeah. They love that shit.
They love it. I don't know why they would do that, but I don't know. I'm really not worried about it. I think it's just because I trust God. I have faith that everything's going to be okay, and even if I die, everything's going to be okay.
Yeah, no, I agree. I'm worried about the next like 5 years or so. I don't think it's gonna be that bad, but I think it's gonna be insane. But in about 10 years, I think we're going to enter a Goldilocks period, because we have these things called the fourth turning, where it's these 100-year cycles of new society kind of being built from the old thing that falls apart, because the way that things are set up usually have a shelf life of about 100 years until the way that it was set up falls apart and a new thing has to be built. So it's like the American Revolution was one, then the Civil War was the next one, that's a 100-year gap, then World War II was the next one, that's another 100-year gap, and then right now we're at that 80 to 100-year mark right now. So
and 100 years ago, these guys were fighting in World War I, Great Depression, World War II.
That's how it all falls apart.
It's been so much worse, though. I mean, I know it's bad right now, but we have it good.
We have the highest standard of living in all 100%. Mankind.
I still love the USA. I'll come out and say it. I've traveled around. Nothing compares. My sister, for her honeymoon, took a 3-week vacation touring Italy and Sweden. After week 1, she's like, I want to come back home. Yeah. America's just better in every way.
Yeah, 100%.
It is.
And it's scary to go to the rest of the world right now, because you don't have the innocent before proven guilty stuff. So, I feel like potential prey anywhere else in the world where they could accuse you of anything and set you up for stuff. So I'm a little bit cautious of traveling internationally for that reason. But yeah, no, the period after World War II was extremely peaceful and almost boring to a degree. Like it's weird. They said that like there was a 10-15 year stretch after World War II where there's just nothing to talk about in the news because everything was the same. 1950s,
60s.
Yeah, that was a golden period.
I think we're gonna see it again by the time that we're
AI,
that age.
AI and quantum computing is gonna create like a crazy standard of living where. Yeah, it's going to replace a lot of BS manufacturing jobs that are cumbersome or laborsome, but I think that that's an opportunity to go deeper on stuff that we haven't done yet. Like, I mean, I know everybody's anti-colonizing space because Bezos and Musk talk about it, but I think that's something that's worthwhile to colonize space. And
really?
Yeah. I mean, why
you
not?
Believe in space? No, I'm just kidding. No, actually, though. You think
that's a worthwhile thing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why?
Because we have the technology to do it right now, and for the same reason that we travel outside of the continent we're born in, we're built to travel and to expand, and why not put the human race on other habitable planets? Like, it's a true argument. Like, what if this one gets hit by an asteroid, or what if the caldera in Yellowstone goes off? That'll kill 70% of the world.
I've heard about this.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. It's like, do you think that when Elon shot his Tesla up into space that was real?
Yeah. You don't?
I don't buy it.
Really?
I don't buy the moon landing. I don't
Wow.
buy. I don't buy the
Well, I don't
Tesla
buy the moon
thing.
landing either, but I'm not in the camp of like that we live in a dome or anything. I think the moon landing was probably done in Hollywood, but
Yeah.
I think no, I don't know. I feel like the argument that space is real is just like it's like the saying in the Art of War, you know, like avoid what's strong and attack what's weak. So, you know, the whole argument of like space not being real, that's like attacking what's strong in the sense of
Is it though?
yeah.
I mean, look,
There's
I think
satellites
it's.
and shit out there. I don't know. I'm not trying to argue with that. I don't like. There's nothing I can say to prove that space isn't real. So why would I even take that argument up?
I think it is. I think science overall pretends that we know so much about everything, and it keeps getting disproven time and time and time again at an even more rapid pace than ever before. And I think it's very foolish to put your faith in something that keeps getting disproven over and over again instead of the Bible that keeps getting confirmed over and over again through archaeological history and just reports overall. And I think it's foolish to be like, oh, a guy smarter than me that totally understands that he can look through a telescope and see a star 87 billion light years away, and it's made of this material and this planet. Oh, it's got 87% iron on it. How do they know this? I've looked it up. They reflect the light off, and they are able to tell that the photons are reflecting off a certain whatever. Mm-hmm. I'm not buying it. I think space is something else. I don't know if it's a big conspiracy that we're having the wool pulled over our eyes. I just think we're looking at something that we don't quite understand. The ancients, they talked about the heavens. That's how they describe space. Mm. And I think that it's ingrained in every human being that when they die, they're able to transcend and see a realm like in 4D that they were unable to comprehend as a 3D person. And I think that the heavens play a role in that. And once we die, we'll be able to see what's actually going on. And it's going to be not this black void, but something else. Not biblically backed. I've never heard anybody talk about that, truly. Mm-hmm. That's just my intuition.
Yeah, no, I feel that. And, you know, when it comes to the whole science versus Bible thing, I get what you're saying about things getting disproven constantly and not being able to really confirm the stuff they see billions of layers away. But, you know, you can't use the Bible to make a car. You can't use the Bible to create medicine. So, you know, science has served a purpose in that way. So it's not all invalid. And when it comes to the Bible, I deeply believe in God, but I'm not in the camp of saying like every single word of the Bible is true and you gotta take it like as the gospel, because I think it's just a good rule book or set of principles to live life, and it's like a constitution on a bigger scale just for culture and humanity, and it's a good set of rules for everybody to follow. But
what God do you believe in?
I just believe in God. Period. Like I don't call it
which God?
I don't think there's multiple gods. I don't give God a name except for God. You know, like
is it the God of the Bible, or is it a different God?
Yeah, I just don't think of it in that way. I think God's God. I don't have to put like a label or a certain name on it.
So if you don't base God off the Bible, how do you know God's heart? How do you know what he wants you to do or the principles that he lives by?
The way I describe it is I have high-speed connection to the infinite storehouse of infinite information. So, you know, you have a thought pop into your head, and I don't think that's just from you, an organic thought from inside your being. I think that's from God and the universe. I think God and the universe are the same thing. And I think certain people who are, you know, fighting the right fight and have the right values, they have fast.
What makes them right? Well, who dictates that?
The universe and God.
How do you know what the universe and God dictates to be right if you don't have a firm foundation of something that states it?
A strong constitution, you know, within. I mean, maybe I'm completely wrong, but all I could do is go full speed ahead in what I feel is right in my heart, and what I feel right is in my heart. You know, I fight for that every day. I consider myself a soldier for God, and it might not be the same God that everybody else describes, but
it sounds like you're your own God.
No, I credit everything I've ever done, everything that I hope to do in the future to God. I feel deeply connected to God. You know, interact with Him every day. And I give credit to God for every thought that I've ever had and every thought that I ever will have.
Fair. I think that is completely off basis. I think that's completely wrong. And I think that you are your own God. But this can be a whole other episode. I think we should wrap it up right here. Guys, if you want to connect with us on Minnect, I would encourage you. I'm Daniel DeBrincat. This is Brandon Acito. We also have our director, Sam Elgart. All on Minnect. You can ask us anything. based off this episode or based off anything else. Ask me about Jesus. That'd be great. So thank you so much for tuning in, and cheers.
Thanks for watching, guys.